Joined now by Rob Williams, Rob the Hockey Guy, the national sports editor of the Daily Hive and its Offside Sports Vertical. And we're talking Jake Guentzel today, Rob, with the Canucks playing in Pittsburgh Thursday. What do you think? He's apparently available. You know how they love them, some Penguins. Will he be a Canuck?
First of all, this is the first time in how long that we legitimately are talking about bringing in like big time rentals for the Canucks. I'm thinking back to like 2015. Even that,
no, Toffoli. Let's not forget Toffoli. He was the biggest rental available when the Canucks acquired him from the Kings in, what was that, 2019, 2020?
Sure, but I think it was kind of a surprise that they did that. And I think that the fan base was quite divided on, whether that was a good move. Like, was this the time to be selling future assets to bring in a rental? And I recall 2015, people talking about like, okay, they've got, what was it, like Brad Richardson and Sean Matthias. So like, should they be trading those guys off? So like, there was a bit of division. Like, this is the first time I feel like since it's got to be 2013, or like more than 10 years, that kind of everyone's I feel like everyone's kind of in agreement. Like, okay, this is a team worth, spending future assets to really make a push this season. Now,
are you thinking Ruchinski, Carney, and Weinrich? Are you thinking something like that?
Derek Roy.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, like, so just a note on that, as my head's still spinning, that at the surprise that we're at this point this season. But here we are now. Is Jake Guentzel, is that too much? Like, that's my question, is what is it going to take to get Jake Guentzel? Great player, of course he would fit in fantastically, but if he's going to be a true rental, if you're not actually going to be holding on to him after this season, then I don't think the Canucks are in a position where they should be jumping out of their shoes. I don't think that's the path to success, to be jumping out of your boots at the top available rental. For me, I would like them to have a bit of an eye on the future still, like try to add some pieces smartly, but don't get caught up in the hoopla of trade deadline day and make a mistake that's going to cost you for the next decade.
Well, everyone just, I think, assumes that, the Canucks can sort of pull something off, and that everybody else will be trying to pull something off. But we also learned yesterday there was multiple reports that the Kings are standing pat. They've got simply no cap room. The Kings will not be adding anybody at the trade deadline. And how many other teams in the mix are also going to be in that boat? It's hard to pull off deals. And I do wonder if the Penguins have all these grand plans to trade Jake Guentzel for Sun, Moon, and Stars, and then realize still with a relatively flat cap for this year, and it only matters for this year, doesn't matter for next year because he's got no term going forward. How many teams, like, can there really be a robust market even for a jewel like Jake Guentzel?
Yeah, perhaps. And if you can get him on, if you can get a deal on him, then of course you've got to consider it. I think for me, it's what is the play after this? Is it just you bring in Guentzel, you lose Guentzel? I mean, as great a season as the Canucks have had, I mean, would anybody be surprised if they're out in the first round? Like, that wouldn't be like a major shocker, right?
Nope.
Like that, they might not even be favored in their first round series. Like, time will tell. So I do think that bringing in Guentzel just to have him for a couple months and then say goodbye is not something that I'd be on board for. If you bring him in with the intention of re-signing him, and maybe you've got some other moves that you're thinking about, then great. But I don't think that they should be in a position where they're just like, I'm not in favor of like the true rental kind of guy. The type of deal I wouldn't mind is, remember when the Leafs brought in Jake Muzzin, guy in his late 20s, still under contract for a little bit. Like, that's the type of guy I think I'd like, and that's the type of move I'd like to see the Canucks make, where maybe you're spending some future assets, but you're bringing in a player that is going to help you for more than just one run.
Always the role.
How many teams do you think we've talked a little bit about the predictive models and where they have the Vancouver Canucks in terms of a Stanley Cup participant or winner? How many teams do you think at this stage of the game have better cup odds than the Canucks?
it's crazy to think, but I mean, there's not many. Like they're certainly top 10. Are they top 5? Like maybe. I mean, if you're looking at the teams around the league and going, how many of these teams would you be like, oh yeah, they've got a better chance to win the cup than the Canucks?
Not the Jets, who are leading the conference, right? Like the Jets are sort of the Canucks, right? You know, really nice story, playing awesome. But do they have the pedigree that leads you to believe that they are just emphatically better or more imposing than the Canucks? No.
I think most people, despite their recent struggles, would pick the Vegas Golden Knights over the Canucks. So that's a little scary because that's in their division. The Oilers, you know, how do people like the Oilers' chances better than the Canucks? Like they've got McDavid and Draisaitl, but boy, oh boy, do they also have a whole host of red flags on that roster. You know, chief among them, like their ability to defend and keep the puck out of their net. I don't see a lot of teams where I'm like, okay, yeah, that team's got a better chance to win than the Canucks. Like, I guess arguable with LA, right? Like arguable with Dallas, perhaps. Like maybe you'd rank Dallas ahead of the Canucks, but boy, oh boy, there really isn't a lot of teams where you're like, okay, that team has a better chance than the Canucks. So it's like, what, you know, I think the feeling amongst Canucks management is, you know, I'd have to believe it. Their feeling is probably going to be like, why not us?
Canucks Oilers guys would be exactly what this market needs. Oh,
amazing.
Like versus Alberta,
a rivalry again.
And it would be 5-4 games. You'd have to think. I mean, McDavid and Draisaitl would torch them, but the Canucks would torch the Oilers as well. Like it would be nonsense.
To answer the question, Rob, I think Colorado and Vegas unequivocally. You might even put the Rangers there as well, Monday notwithstanding. I think Dallas, Edmonton, Carolina, Boston. I think you can make a case for all of them. And then Winnipeg, LA. Let's not forget Florida, right? They won the Eastern Conference.
Florida, and they're rolling like thunder right now.
So, yeah, I hear you. Somewhere in the 5 to 10 range, I can absolutely.
But people in a lot of the cities you just mentioned are looking at the Canucks going, man, that team's scary. Right?
Yep.
We're so tainted here.
Well, I think a lot of it is because the Canucks, this team hasn't really been in the playoffs, so we don't exactly know what we're going to get. Like, you're not going, oh, geez, okay, that Miller, Pettersson, when they get to the playoffs, they're a different beast because we've seen them once in the playoffs, right? So we don't know exactly what we're going to get. And then, I mean, they were excellent. You know, the Canucks core was very good in the 2020 playoffs, but you know, what a different playoffs those were, right? So I do think that there's that aspect where, and maybe it's a bit of a bias where we go, okay, we've seen Vegas in the playoffs, we've seen Colorado, we've seen them lift the cup, like we know they can get it done when it matters. We don't know what we don't know with the Canucks.
All stars. We know they have Quinn Hughes. We know they have 4 others that are doing very well in the voting. How many do you anticipate? And perhaps more importantly, Rob, how many will the league allow them to have?
You don't think this is going to be a Rory Fitzpatrick situation, do you? Where the NHL cooks the books to keep a Canuck out of the All-Star game? It's funny because remember last week this time we were talking about the fact that the Canucks will surely not have, you know, there surely is going to be multiple snubs because, you know, how many of the extra players are actually going to, you know, be from the same team. But we also acknowledged that we hadn't yet learned how they were going to decide the remaining spots. Like we didn't really know exactly the situation. And as we've come to learn, it's just a straight vote among fans. And it doesn't seem to matter what conferences, what teams these players come from. And as soon as I saw that, I thought, you know what, like advantage goes to the big fan bases in this situation, in particular, the big excitable fan bases at this moment that are active on social media. Hello, Canucks Twitter. I think they're going to put another 4 Canucks players into the All-Star game. It's deserving. So I think that's great. I think we've seen in the past, there's been some fan bases that have kind of pushed some players in that maybe didn't necessarily deserve it. I recall San Jose doing that at one time. But yeah, this is a situation where I think I mean, I believe when the All-Star game's going on in Toronto, there's going to be 5 Canucks there, and isn't that going to be something?
Hey, you're not building
First of all-
you're not building a playoff team at the All-Star game. It's about individual performances. Unlike the awards and all that sort of stuff, this is just about flat out individual. 5 Canucks deserve to be there.
Yeah.
Well,
first of all, they didn't tell you until then because they like it that way, Rob. They're not big on transparency and methodology, as you well know. And secondly, I'm not sure I would trust them. Like, are they citing a PricewaterhouseCoopers or someone who's doing the accounting here, or are they have they secured third-party verification? Remains to be seen. But yeah, 5 definitely deserve to go, and you're absolutely right. The big fan bases do have the advantage. Okay, Lunar New Year, and do you remember? I think it was 2 years ago when we first started fawning over these theme jerseys. And by last year, when we saw Lunar New Year, and of course Diwali is also a part of this, as are some others, we sat there going, boy, the Canucks, if they lead the league in one category, it's these theme night jersey designs. They do that better than any other team in the National Hockey League. They're back at it again, and if you want one of these Lunar New Year jerseys, you're going to have to pay up.
The price has gone up, if you can believe it. People were already sort of in every time these come out. I post the jersey, and there's a lot of responses that are talking about the cost because they're astronomically expensive, and they were $750, and now they've upped the price for this one. This is the first price increase I've seen in a little while. $888. So a lucky number, for many, but I think they'd prefer a lower lucky number than $888 with shipping. It breaks the $1,000 mark. That's probably the first time a Canucks jersey has ever been sold for over $1,000. That didn't include wasn't a game worn jersey or wasn't a player signed jersey. So over $1,000 for these jerseys. I'd love for them to. I really would love for them to. I mean, the Canucks have explained the reason why these specialty jerseys cost so much in the past. They're not made in big batches overseas like the rest of they're the main jerseys that they wear. They're made locally. The cost of designing them is higher. I've heard some people. I mean, I'm not I'm not an expert in jersey design in terms of manufacturing, so I can't really verify the legitimacy of all this. I'm sure it is more expensive to make locally, but I would love for them to figure out a way to make these make bigger batches, like make these available. Like, people are clamoring for these jerseys, in particular the Diwali jersey, and in particular the Lunar New Year jersey, for obvious reasons in Vancouver. People really want these jerseys, and they can't get their hands on them.
A very smart sports marketing person asked me about this several years ago. Why are they so expensive? Why don't they do them in big batches? And so I said, because they make small batches. He goes, why don't they do it in big batches? And I went, I don't really know. And he goes, like, are they worried about like inventory and shelf space?
No,
like,
I think
you're gonna sell these things over time anyway.
I think what they're worried about is that jersey being not equal to the regular jersey, but they just don't want too many of these jerseys in the bowl. They want their colors, their jersey to be representative. They want this to be a very niche little thing, I think, is probably it.
Lastly, Rob, are anthem singers getting these jerseys?
We'll see. We'll see.
They don't pay them anyway.
They don't give the anthem singer a jersey?
We'll see, I guess. There's a push online to get Marie Huey. She's going to be singing the anthem, and I don't think she wants this attention, but I guess she mentioned that the jerseys were a little expensive, so now fans are coming out and going, give Marie a jersey. So we'll see.
By the way, friend of the show, Trevor Lai, designed these jerseys again this year. He had a tap in, like when it's Year of the Dragon.
Oh yeah,
like come on, Trevor has done a wonderful job, but I would hope so. It's pretty Year of the Rabbit. That was a tough one to pull off.
And he did it beautifully.
He put that one on the skate jersey as well. This one, It's a dragon.
Oh yeah. Can
I
we
love it.
get
I love dragons, guys.
Marie and Juggy and Elizabeth jerseys, please? The least you can do. Rob, you're a beauty. Every week there's something new, there's something different, there's something just a little bit offbeat about the Rob Williams hit that we love. Thanks, buddy. Catch up next Thursday.
Thank you.
Rob, you're